So, okay, you are going live, Rabbi. Yeah?
Like this, okay?
Yeah.
If you see it's very simple. I don't know why you ask me to do. If I'm not, if I'm, it's my parents. Ask me to do.
This evening,
It's late. I will wait.
we are going to be learning the Malchus of the Rebbe, the Keshe in Parsha. I'm sorry. We're going to be learning the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe from Nas Toshin Nun Beis, the Heksha to in connection with Parsha Terumah, and as usual, the learning is taking place in the Beis Knesses of the Tzedek. Be'ir HaKodesh, Be'ir Atika, Be'ir HaKodesh Tsfat, and this evening is Thursday night, Oyer Le Gimel Odo Toshin Pei. So, as has been our custom over the last few months, what I will try to do, in the light of this very, like all of these things, very complex and very, bound in one thing with the other very profoundly, we'll deal somewhat on the outside, to use an expression, with what we've had on previous Shurim, the earlier part of the Sikha, and we'll try to reach some of the message towards the close of the Sikha. So, the Rebbe opens the whole Sikha with the fact that in Rov Hashonim, and just by the way, it's important to notice that the kriyas in the days of the week is the same now as it was then in Toshin Nun Beis. However, the main essential difference is that in Toshin Nun Beis, in reference to Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon. Well, by us, it's Adar, but it came out on the same day. The kriyas of the days is exactly the same. So that, on the one hand, is differs it, but on the other hand, makes it easier for us to come in on the whole message of the Sikha. So what we see, the Rebbe points out that in many of the years, Parsha Terumah comes out at the beginning of Chodesh Adar. That's to say, the Shabbat Parsha Terumah follows closely after Rosh Chodesh Adar. When it gets to Adar, we have a klal that it's also brought down by the great poskim. It's actually shayach lahalacha. It's not just a homiletic idea, but it's actually shayach lahalacha, that from the moment that Adar comes in, we have to be increasing the whole time b'simcha. So the Rebbe addresses to the makor of that in the Gemara, and that's at the end of Masechta Tainis, where the Mishnah says over there that Mishaniknas once the month of Menachem comes in, Mamaitim Basimcha, then you have to cut back and you have to lessen the inyonim of Simcha, and you have to place emphasis on the Avelis and things of that nature, what the 9 days are connected with. But if the Mishnah uses the expression, Mishaniknas, or Mamaitim Basimcha. So, on that comes along the Gemara, and the Gemara adds a comment to what is written in the Mishnah. And the Gemara says, Kishaim, just like Kishaniknas of Mamatim Basimcha, Kach, Mishaniknas Oda Marbim Basimcha. So Kunta is that the whole halacha that we know of Marbim Basimcha, B'chodesh Oda, is brought down in the Gemara as a hemshech, a running statement for what the Mishnah says over there, that when the Bob comes in, you have to cut back the Simcha. So the Rabbi, makes a whole remark about that would tend to, perhaps, it makes a rosham that, that the Simcha of order is not such a sensational, because we, as it were, learn it from the opposite. We learn it from the. So the Rabbi makes a very fascinating point. Perhaps we could compare it to the general idea and the general point brought down in Chassidus B'Shem HaZohar HaKodesh, that Yisron Ha'oyer is Davke Min HaChoyshech Davke, that the great advantage and the great elevation of light comes Davke from darkness. In other words, that if you have darkness and then light appears, then you see the greatness of the light. And that's a big cloud in the whole Chassidus. It's not the place to go into it here at great length. However, suffice to say that the Rebbe says that since it's written such a strange connection, that I know the whole din of Marbim Basimcha during Odo from the fact that I have to be Mamayit Basimcha in O, and I connect them together. We have to say that not the purpose to play down the Simcha in order, of on the contrary, to show that the whole Mishnah telling me about O is only in order that should add into and be nefach to make a greater Simcha when it comes to Odo. In other words, like coming from the Choshech into the oil, and as it were, the Choshech is nimshak b'toich oil, and thus gets a great aliyah. So the whole purpose of that hemshech in the Gemara, of those two inyonim, is really to, as it were, be mahapik, to reverse the whole inyan of the Avelis of all into a great simcha. And like we know that when Moshiach will come, take over Miyad, that all of those days, and especially Tisha B'Av, will all be Yom Tovim. They'll all elevate to a very high level of simcha. So that's due to the fact that in Chodesh Order we are Amar, and we learn that from the whole din of Chodesh Or. That means that we're like, as we're drawing all that into the Marvin Basimcha in order. A very amazing point. So it follows, Rabbi, that if Parsha Terumah comes out in Marbim Basimcha of Chodesh Adar, then that must have some very special kesher and relationship with the whole inyan of the Marbim Basimcha, which is a very powerful inyan in Chodesh Adar. So the Rebbe goes on to say that in order to appreciate that, we need to examine a few basic issues when I get to the Parshas Shavua and its relationship with the time in which we find ourselves. So the Rebbe says that the first inyan that he begins is that we find a strange diuk at the beginning of the Parsha in reference to the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, or the Binyan Hamishkan, which later becomes, according to many of the great poskim, that is the same mitzvah to build the Beis Hamikdash and everything. That's like a general everlasting commandment to make a Mishkan in the desert and a Chreisa in Yerushalayim to build the Beis Hamikdash. And so the Pasuk tells us how Moshe Rabbeinu heard from the Eibishter how we have to get Yidden to give from what they have. That's a simple pshat. V'yichuli Terumah, that they have to give in order to make the Mishkan. And we find that the first thing that is mentioned that they have to give is zahav, how do you call it? Gold. It's written, Ve'elu hadvarim asher tichu me'itam, and then there's 11 or 13 of them, depending how you count them. And the first one is zahav. And then it mentions chesed, and silver, and nechoises, which is, how do you call it, copper. Yeah, bronze, copper. So, the Rebbe says like this, that why do we start off, why do we begin with the inyan of Zahov? First of all, the Rebbe said Zahov is a sign of emes ashiras, how do you call it, very high level in richness. So true that all the yin that they went out of Mitzrayim, there's a famous Maimon Chazal that every simple year they had about 9 donkeys full of all sorts of good things that he got from the Mitzrayim. Yeah, and amongst them was Zohar v'Chesed. However, the Rebbe says that first of all, and we have to assume that Zohar, being a very precious inyan, most of the Mitzrayim didn't have a lot of Zohar. You know, it's only by very special rich people that they have a lot of Zohar. If we say that all the Jewish people filled their donkeys from the Mitzrayim, probably the Mitzrayim didn't give them Be'ika Zohar. They gave them Be'ika other things like Kesef and Nechoises. Which means, and particularly if we take into account that it's apparent from the hemshech of the whole story in Sefer Shmois, that there were even at that point, after they went out of Mitzrayim, after the bizo of the Yam Suf and everything, that there were certain Yidden that were rich and there were certain Yidden that were poor. Yeah, it's more likely to say that the Zahav was by the rich people more. And by the poorer people, they probably didn't have Zahor. Mashenk in Kesef, that would appear, and then makes another point, the Rebbe, that simply if we examine later the work of the whole building of the Mishkan, they needed more Kesef than what they did Zahav. In other words, the Etzem work itself required more kesef and nechoishes than it did Zohar. Because there were only a certain few inyonim that needed Zohar. For example, the Aron HaKodesh, not completely, but very much, the Aron HaKodesh, and then there was the menorah, and then there were certain, the Mizbach HaKtoros was made out of Zohar. But everything else didn't require necessarily. And forget the whole building was built out of stone. So the Rebbe said, that from all sides, it's not understood. Why does the Pasuk put Zahor first? First of all, put the most likely thing first, and what you need it more than anywhere, what you need is Zahar. Why do you start off with Zahar? And the Ebenezer and some of the great Meforshim asked this question also. Why do I begin with the Zahar? So, the Rebbe, on that very, very interesting Shaila, the Rebbe answers an answer which, first of all, he begins with another question. By approaching a way of understanding that extra question, we'll go back to understanding why we started off as a whole. And the Rabbi asks another general and very understandable question, and that is to build the Beis Hamikdash, or the sanctuary, the Mishkan in the desert. There was a certain purpose. And what was the purpose? V'shochanti b'soichom, that the Eibusha would come down and dwell in this world, and Kaviyohu in the house that they built for him. And in other words, that there would be a Gilu Elikus in a very essential level in this world, and united with the Etzem building of the Beis Hamikdash. And then there's a further stage or further inyan in the whole inyan of the Mishkan, and that is v'shochanti b'soi chom, that's going to become, as it were, the central point through which the Abish is not only going to appear there, but it would appear, we could say, be'ikar, he's going to appear in each and every individual. And l'kol ha'toyres, there's going to be a living Beis Hamikdash inside every year. That the whole concept of the building, the Parshas of the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash are connected with the Yidden of Yidden. And that's why we see that Yidden are required to give towards them. And the Rambam says, and it's brought down in other great Sfarim, that in the Midbar, in the Mishkan of the Midbar, everybody gave. Men, women, and even children gave out of their private little things that they had towards the actual building of the Mishkan. And later in the work, the actual building, making of the Kalim and everything, it was mostly men, but we see also in the Posse that women made, they worked on the skin of the fur of the goats and so on, and they made things like the ureas and things of that nature. Well, that was made up by women. So we see that once again there was a general ishtatvas of all sugim of Bnei Israel in the act of giving of the money in the Terumah and in the actual building itself. So the Rabbi goes on to say that l'choira, if we're going to say that the Mishkan is a tremendous change, which that happens to be the case, that the Abish that's going to come down and dwell permanently amongst the Jewish people through, and he's going to be revealed in a very high level inside the house, which we call the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash. So then, l'chora, you need very elevated people to make that happen. And if l'chora, that happens to be the case, because if we examine the actual work of the Parshas, the Gashmis, and the making of the Beis Hamikdash, but it was made by Betzalel and Eliyahu, and they were great, unbelievable craftsmen. And they also, the Gemara tells us about Betzalel, that he was a man that he knew all the oisias of the creation, and he was a most amazing, how do you call it, ish kesher, kaviyohu, im elikus. Even to the point that Moshe Rabbeinu said, you understood certain points clearer than what I did. The whole Gemara, Masechet Brachos there. The actual building process per se in Gashmis was through elevated, very, very elevated, specially chosen craftsmen, that they were also in Rukni as very elevated people. Yet nonetheless, the Rambam and everybody suggests and stresses that the whole building of the Beis Hamikdash was really shot to every year. So how's a child to say that every year, and particularly, there were, even amongst the people who went out of Mitzrayim, There were different levels amongst the Yidden. So there were people who didn't, really have a tremendously high level compared to people like Vitzalo and all those. They didn't really know a great deal of what was, actually occurring in the Etzem Malachim. So how is it that it's Ki'ilu Aleph, that they all took part in the building, and Sheni, the Avis is going to dwell in them through that building. He's going to dwell in each and every one of the Jewish people. Yeah, and that's the famous drasha that the Alshik HaKodesh brings down, and later the Shloah HaKodesh, that they say, B'kol echad ve'echad Miyisrael, and he's like a Mishkan, Katan, each and every one. So the Rebbe said, how does that all come together? Yeah, how can you say that, l'chora? So therefore, the Rebbe says that the Mishkan was built and put up after when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain. Then he began giving over all these things that he'd heard on the mountain about the Mishkan. And they began building the Mishkan in Chodesh Kislev, and by Chodesh Adar, they'd already finished the majority of the work. It just needed to be put up. And then there was a whole question, how are we going to put it up? It's very heavy, and the Keroshim are very hard to lift, the whole story. But the main actual malacha was completed in Chodesh Adar, and everything was ready. And therefore later in Parsha Pikudei and Parsha Vayakel, Rashi points out how connected with Chodesh Nis and everything, all these amazing events happened, which led to the actual standing up of the Beis Hamikdash or the Mishkan. But I'm not going into that now in all the detail. So, Kumtois, that the actual giving of all the Terumah and the building of, and putting together all the kelim and all the necessary parts of the Mishkan was all done after Matan Torah. So, what happened at Matan Torah? So the Rebbe says that the whole inyan of Matan Torah wasn't just a oration, but again to Rotzen Hashem. That in the time of the Ovis, Rotzen Hashem was a Ruchnias inyan, but again to avoid a Ruchnias and a high level of that of the Ovis. And through Matan Torah, Hashem's will came down into the physical world, and there was a sanctity brought through the action of every Yid, that every Yid became Shayach to keep Rotzen Hashem b'toich olam hagashmi. So the Rebbe said, let's examine for a second, what does that imply? Or this oration and this change that occurred, what does that imply? So the Rebbe said, what happened to each and every Yid at Matan Torah was that even though he's a neshama lamata in a guf, and he's a limited person in Zeh Ha'olam, he has the power, and he now can unite with Etem Elikus in a way that he can bring a fusion between Elikus and the world just through a relatively simple act of his. In other words, if he keeps a mitzvah, or he learns Torah in a way that he devotes himself Emunah Shlema to learning the way it should be, so then he's able to cause a fusion between Etzem Ha'olam Hagashmi and Elikus. In other words, that it comes out, like many Svarim point out, that no longer is there any dichotomy in the whole creation. Everything, Hashem and the world and the neshamas of the Yidden are all one thing. And that's what the Zohar Kodesh says, that Yisrael Kol Echad, it's all one thing. So that occurred at Matan Torah, which means that every Yid is now, as it were, a fusion of his neshama and his nefesh elokis with the etem elokus that made him, and he's bringing that in the way that becomes also part of the world. It's not just in him; it's also dwelling in the world, and that's the union of Dir Elois Bara. That's the whole concept of Dir Elois Bara. Is this going over? It would be encouraging to think so. We're rather limited, and also there's a certain tendency to drop asleep and so on. And Dvar, we hope that that it's reaching ears. So the Rebbe said, if so, every year is integrally be'etem inyoni different than he was before Matan Torah. After Matan Torah, he's something completely different. What is the and therefore, for example, the Gemara says that li'elam yilmod adam sheloi lishmo. Even if a man is learning and he doesn't really mean this for the sake of Hashem. Let's say, he's learning because he's got some sort of ulterior motive, or he's looking for something. Let him go ahead and let him learn. Yeah, the Gemara says in the sect of Psachim, Shemitoik sheloi lishmo, boli shmo. And so there it brings down to Rambam. The Rambam writes very similar to this near the end of Hilchos Teshuvah. In a halacha, the Rambam brings this, and it's written. What is the pitch line that if a person's learning shaloi lishmo, he will eventually come lishmo, and therefore you should let him go ahead. He will eventually come. So the Rebbe says, if you look carefully at the lashon of our sages, they say li'olam yilmaid adam shaloi lishmo. Shemitoik shelo lishmo bo lishmo. So the Rebbe says the word mitoik means the inside or the pneumias. That in the shelo lishmo there's a toik, there's an inner pneumias inside the shelo lishmo, and from that mitoik, from that inner pneumias of the shelo lishmo, well, that's what makes him turn into lishmo. And what is the inner pneumias? He really means it, lishma. That really deep inside, since he became as it were, a fused union with Elikus, he can't alter that. And therefore the Rambam says a very amazing thing at the end of, not in the end, in Perek Beis, in Hilchos Gerushin. The Rambam writes that really every Yid wants to do every Yid, doesn't matter who he is, he really wants to do what the Eibishter wants. Yeah. Now, what then? He's got a Yetzer Hara. So the Yetzer Hara holds him up with a gun and forces him to do something occasionally, not exactly as it should be. And he doesn't have the power to overcome the gun of the Yetzer Hara. And therefore he gives it. But he doesn't really want to do it. And that's what the Rambam writes over there. Yitzroi oinsoi. His Yetzer has forced him into it with a gun. Oh man, the Rebbe says, if he's just a oinus, really he doesn't want that. For what? Because deep inside, he's out of the the Eibishter chose us in a way that we're all one with him, and we all want exactly what he wants. Lefizeh says the Rebbe comes to us that really inside the Shaloi Lishmo is the Lishmo, and therefore let him learn Shaloi Lishmo. Why? Because ultimately the pneumias, the Shaloi Lishmo will come out below him. So the Rebbe said, come to us, that a Yid is a very special walking on 2 feet, a very tremendous entity, that he's like something very precious and unusual in the whole creation. That Yidden, that's why we say in our davening, Atavuchatonu Mikol, and in the morning by Birchas Krishma we say, Uvan Vichat Mikol Amva and you've chosen us from all the other people, because we are carrying a whole unity with you that is different than the whole world. So the Rebbe said that's what Zahav is. Zahav is a sotzach, which is very different, and that's why few people have Zahav, because it's a very precious inyan. And therefore, the whole purpose to indicate here is that we've got to start the Mishkan, which is the place of the Eibush, meeting up with the Jewish people. We're going to start with Zohar, because that's the most precious inyan. And who is the Zohar? And what is the koyah to reveal the Zohar? Well, that's a Yid, because he's also Zahab. Yeah, a Yid is like the gold of the creation. He's the very special metal, or the very special entity in the whole creation, called gold. He's like the central point, and therefore the Parsha says, if you want to build and make this union and this meeting place between the Etzem Neshama and the Etzem Inyan of the Eibishter, you have to start off with Zohar. Yeah, you got to have a Yid, and he is like a indication in his very essence of what it's all about. You follow? It's an amazing idea. So, in order to keep our promise that we are going to learn inside something, so we'll turn to page 380, and we'll start with the second paragraph, Kol Yehudi Hu Zahav, right? On the basis of what I've just told you, hopefully that will now make more sense. He said, Koesh Novin Gam Madua HaTorah Hishchila Davki B'Zahor B'Kesher L'Nidvus HaMishkan. We told you the whole question. So he says, HaZahor Ki Yadua Eina Oid Sug Mateches. Yeah, gold is not just another type of metal. A nice piece of metal compared to other metals. Azahov misamel be'etem es adova hayokur v'chashuv biyoter. Yeah, if you want to say about somebody, he's really very special in Yiddish, you say he's mamish gold. Like if the word gold doesn't just indicate a better metal than some of the metals. It indicates something very delicately special, unusual. And therefore, people use the expression of gold element, he's something really special. So therefore, he says that's in of gold. V'lochein, imonu boim livdoi, ad kama yesh tzorah b'zahor b'mishkan. If we come to measure in Parshas how much you need zahor for the Mishkan, or kama Yehudim yichalim litrim zahor, or how many Jews can actually give the poil zahor, ochein, ein kol tzedek lahazki, I'm sorry, ochein, ein kol tzedek, lahazki es zahor b'rishoina. If we were to go mitzad that as to how many people are actually going to give zahor, and how much we actually need zahor, then we wouldn't have necessarily mentioned zahor at the beginning. Ulam, he said, however, kan maskidim or maskira hatoira is a zahor like a dova v'fnei. It's not using here zahor as a thing on its own, that for the sake of the Mishkan, we need zahor. Ella, he said, kafishu kashur ela yudi. We're talking about zahor, how it's part and bound up with every Yid. וכאשר אנו מסתכלים על מצבו של כל יהודי, הרי שכל יהודי הוא זהוב. Every Yid is a very special preciousness all on his own, separate from everybody else. ובראשו בראשינו הוא שייך לתרומת זהוב. And therefore, a Yid is בעצם, he's like the zahav. Why do we mention Zahav at the beginning? Because Yidden are making the base of Mikdash, and Yidden are in effect Zahav in their very essence. That's why we mentioned Zahav first. And if we look at it carefully, like the Shloah Kodesh and the Al-Shloah Kodesh say, the whole purpose of the Mishkan is Lishkoin and to dwell amongst the Yidden. So sometimes the Yidden are those who are going to make the whole Mishkan, and they're also the ones that it's made for. It's made for that they should be a dear in them very self. So Kuntai said, they are the Zahav, they're like the speciality and the unusual yakar or yoiker of the whole makeup of creation. And therefore they're mentioned first. And so Kuntai said, the pshat, the whole, for chesef and the koishes, the chesef and the koishes could be more on a simple level, referring to what's necessary, what was given Parshas. Of the words of Hov is like a symbolical lead-in as to what's the whole story of the base of the Mishkan and later the base of Mikdash. Mainly he said, "V'zehu v'zeh ka'omer noisen la Yehudi es akoya live noises a Mishkan." We asked the question, how are you as a simple person? How are you shy to build to me? You're not an elevated person. So ein chanami. I'm not an elevated person, but I have a tremendous koyach. I have this union that was formed with Elikus B'matan Torah. Therefore, I'm like the Zahav. Ki mikivin shekol Yehudi hu Zahav be'etzem kol metziyusai meuchedes im HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's linked up, whether he wants it or not. He's linked up with the Eibishter. Like we said in the name of the Rambam, he really wants to do what the Eibishter wants. Yevelochen yesh lo es akoya ka'omer livnais bayis l'Hashem kan lamata, here in this physical world, that there should be dear Elohim in this world. Oh, Mele, it follows that the usage of the word Zahav is like an expression of the whole Tachlis, of what everything's all about. And then Chesed and Akoishes, it becomes relatively linked in an essential way with the necessities of the pashtas of the building. The usage of the word Zahav is not like that. The usage of the word Zahav is like expressing what is the great spiritual tachlis of the whole thing and who is making this possible, every individual yid. And therefore it's written, first of all, you have to have Zohar. And then afterwards we can talk about the reality of all the different things. So he says, he said, this particular Nakuda, that becomes very, very correct and special in Chodesh Adar. Shekeina Chodesh Adar nema she'az mazlam shel Israel hu bari. Oh, so if you look up in the Gemara over there in the Sekta Tainis, where the Gemara says, Kishem sheniknas out, Amadim B'simcha, Kain sheniknas oda, Ma'avim B'simcha, and then the Gemara says, a fascinating thing, the Gemara says, if a Yid has got a din in a base of mishpor, or a base din, or whatever we'll call it, with a goy, he should dry himself out. He should try to avoid getting involved in the actual din. Of a Chodesh Adar, he should let himself. Chodesh Adar, he should make himself available. Why? Because Bari Mazlei to Israel, that Hadikot didn't have a strong muzzle during Chodesh Adar. And the word that the Gemara uses is the word Bari. Yeah. And Bari means Hadikot stark, gesund. So the Rebbe is now going to make a very fascinating point when you get to this whole word, mazal. So the Rebbe says, Omnom Yadua, She'ein Mazal Yisrael. There's another Gemara right towards the end of Masechta Shabbos, where the Gemara says that Ein Mazal Yisrael. So what do we make a big fuss out of the fact that Mazlei, Bari, a Yidden don't have Mazal? Yeah. So what, however, does it mean that Yidden don't have mazel. What does that actually mean? So the Rebbe says, on that Maimar Chazal, Ein Mazel Yisrael, Ulam Rashi Masbia, Rashi over there in the Gemara Masechta Shabbos. He says, Kavona he, Shemazlam Shal B'nai Yisrael, Nosun Lashinoim. Was it a pshat? That when we say that the Goyim do have a mazel and Yidden don't have a mazel, it's not that Yidden don't have a mazel for cloud. And a mazel means, some sort of effect from the heavenly bodies or whatever. He said Yidden do have it, but he said by Goyim, they have it and that's it. That's what they got for all of their. They can't change that. They're shy to a certain mazel, and that's the way they are. Yeah. He said, Rashi says, what does it mean, Ein Mazel Yisrael? Not that there's no mazel for cloud. There is a mazel, but you can change it. In other words, and Rashi gives examples, and he says, Alidei Tfilah, for example, or Shchus Gedela. Rashi writes over there, or a big Shchus. And so how do you get a big Shchus? If you do a certain mitzvah or something, you get a very big Shchus. Well, that can change the effect of your mazel, and you can really get from beyond the mazel, from higher than the mazel. So the pshat in Ein Mazel Yisrael means that we do have a mazel, but we can alter it through something higher, through the three davening and through a schuz. That's what Rashi learns, that the mazel is given to Shinuim. However, since every Yid is really beyond Teva, Rashi gives the example of a big schuz. Lashana is a mazel. So the whole way Rashi understands the Gemara, we do have a mazel, but we can alter it. Yeah? There are like two states. There's one where I am under the influence of the mazel that I have, and then there's a when I'm ein mazel. I can be beyond that altogether. And that's a higher state which comes through another force from outside the mazel, dainu tefillah or schuz gedel or something like that. That's the way Rashi learns. However, that what we say that in Chodesh Adar Bori Masli, it's mashma that during Chodesh Adar you have another mazel altogether, and it's got nothing to do with you, what you do. You didn't do anything. It's just that in the etzem, what we call LP limit, the etzem chefta of Chodesh Adar, the Eibishter separated that off, and he made it bori. And then the word bori means stark and healthy. But that's whether you want it or whether you not. And that's what the Gemara says. Mishaniknas Odo, as soon as Odo comes in, it's better for you to go with the guy and make the din for what's called Poriman. You didn't do anything, yes. That's a ayin which is there, higher than tefillah, it doesn't need schools. Just the fact that you're a yid, you got a very special mazel during Odo. So the Rebbe makes a point, that's another altogether situation. And therefore he says, you tell me that not only that I can change the mazel if I want, without him making any effort, in other words, right from the very beginning, at the moment of Rosh Chodesh Adar, it's already another mazel altogether. It's another inyan, and it's l'mayla from the whole idea what we usually call mazel, but the Gemara calls it mazel. Yeah. So soon the Rebbe is going to say, why call it mazel b'klal? Why give it a name mazel? Just say, l'mayla me'ateva or something. Why give it the name mazel? So the Rebbe says that there's another pshat brought down in Siddas to the whole concept of mazel or ein mazel Israel, apart from what Rashi said over there in the Gemara. And that is that mazel is from Russian noizel, how do you call it? It pours down. So there are certain shayrish to all sorts of inyonim, how they are, lamaila, in Olam Yisrael. And then they drop down, they come through a series of ishtalshalas. From that state, they, as it were, drip down into the situation in the world. That's the Lashon Mazal. He said, Ein Mazal Yisrael, al tikri ein ela ayin. The word ein is also, it can be taken as the word ayin. Ayin Mazal Yisrael. No mazal. In other words, Yidden are from a Zah level, which is called Ayin. And Ayin means etzem bittul of the etzem of Elikus. They're beyond all to have any shaykhs to dripping down into Hishtalshalas. You follow? Ayin mazal Yisrael. Of America, yesh loima, that what is Meir in Chodesh order is that in Ayin mazal Yisrael. It's a very bori, it's a very healthy muzzle. And he called it the iron. It's beyond muzzle altogether. It doesn't even drop, it's just completely and utterly high altogether. So that's what the Rebbe learned. It's an amazing shot. So he said, Vishyakis l'nema b'ter sakstida, shamazel shel Yehudi hu ayin, and ayin is bitol, meaning bittul of the elikus on a very high level. Nitan lahovin shebechodesh order oimed Yehudi b'bittul mukrat gam kan. In other words, that the Eibishter prepares a yid that he's makabel from that level in elikus, so he's bottled. He is bori maslei. That's the most gesund way that you can be, is that you're bottled to the emerson level of elikus. Of Amelech and Neshama Beguf, but even show Bori, and that's the word Bori. You have a Zakesha, the Parshas Terumah. That's the Shagas to Parshas Terumah. He also is Batlas, Lashem, Shekayamas, Yehudi. Or then he was bottled to Ayin, he's bottled to Elikus Legamri, Lamaila from the world. Yeah, nice and the slay a koyat live nice and some mishkan, but you had he said that's what gives you the koyat to build the mishkan. Is really you don't have any mazel. The mazel bari is a ayin mazel Yisrael. And that's the emes bari tika mazel, and that gives you the koyat to build the mishkan. He said, especially in the Chodesh Ordo, the Gemara learns the whole thing from the Choshech of all into, like we learned at the beginning of the thing. In Chodesh Ordo, there's a quote to be completely beyond all the limitations. That's Ayin, how do you call it? Mazul Yisrael. And that's even from Bori. And therefore the Rebbe brings it as a Rosh Tevis, that the word Zahov is Zeh Hanoten Bari. This person that is giving, he's Bari. If you're giving Zahov already, then you are a giver of Bari. You are giving in a very gentle way. So the Rebbe said that makes very good sense with what we just learned. That the emes of Bari is Ayin. Ayin Mazal Yisrael. That's Mamish Piliklas. So then he goes on to say, Zu Gama Siba Lecha Shemishaniknas Odom Harbim Besimcha. Now we'll understand why from the moment that order comes in, you have to be always increasing in Simcha. Shekain, Kishi Yehudi Yodeya, Shebekol Matzav Boy Hu Nimta. Who kosher im HaKodesh Baruch Hu, gam b'matzav achshovi, b'neshama b'guf. He knows that he's bound up with the Eivishter absolutely, even though he might be down in this world. Hari, ba'ovenshal ayin mazal Yisrael. He's bound up with etzem elikus, and mamela he has etzem mispatlas to elikus. So the Rebbe says, Hari shezui asimcha hagedela b'yoysa sheyesh. That is the biggest simcha for a yid to realize just how much koyet he really has and what he really is indicating, what he indicates, just being a yid, that he really is ayin mazal Yisrael. He's completely beyond the whole inyan of mazal. And even the what Rashi said, it's not a level of being able to change the muscle, but you are shy to iron, you are his butlers, gemura, in the very essence of Malchus, and that happens to you on Chodesh Adar, whether you want it or not. Yeah. It happens to you. Yeah. Oh, man, since that happens to you on Chodesh Adar, what's the way to react to that? To be besimcha. How do they say in English? What could be better than that? Anyway, that's the best reason to be besimcha bi. He said, "Berega sheyehudi sameach, asimcha moisifa chayes b'kol maso." Berega, what you are going into simcha, then that adds a chayes to everything you do. Ub'chol pa'ula shu oseh im atzmei v'zu lo oseh. וכך הוא זכה גם לחיי העולם הבא. So where does the Rabbi get that from? I just have to tell him, maybe that'll be sufficient for this evening, but there's a very famous Gemara in the Masechta Tainis, earlier in the Masechta, and certainly one of the Amoraim was one of the Amoraim, he was very holy, and Eliyahu Hanavi used to meet up with him frequently. And he was rogil to meet up with Eliyahu Hanavi. Yeah. So one day he's in the shuk, he's in the marketplace. Where a lot of people are gathering around, Yidden and Goyim and everybody, and he's in the marketplace. All of a sudden he bumps into Eliyahu Hanavi. So he was feeling particularly courageous. So he says to Eliyahu Hanavi, point out to me amongst all these people who is Ben Elam Habo. You follow? So Eliyahu Hanavi takes a look around, and he said, look, there's a lot of people here, but he said, I can't really point at anybody for sure that he's a Ben Elam Habo. So this Samuel, he's pretty discouraged, pretty taken back. Then all of a sudden, two guys come into the picture. They come up on the screen. Two guys walk in from the shuk into the main shuk. And all of a sudden, Eliyahu pulls him by the arm. He said, "Oh, you see these two guys?" He said, "They are Ben Elam Haba, really." So, these guys, really pop out. He said, yes, these guys. He said, oh, yeah, they're for sure. So he jumps away from Eliyahu and he goes over to these guys and he says, Maya Vidatayu, what do you guys do? What are you up to? What you do in life? You want to know what's the story. So you know what they said? That they are Badchonim. You know what a badchan is?
A clown.
Yeah, somebody that makes people laugh. So they said, but we are not badchanim that go to chasnas and things like that. He said, we are badchanim like this. We walk around, and if we see anybody, shu atzivu, in the Lashon Gemara, atzivu from Lashon atzmi, we see him down, then we go up and we drain him a cup. Until he laughs, and he becomes the and he laughs at his own problems. You understand? When we reach that, then we look for somebody else. We've already made somebody very happy. Then we look for somebody else. You follow? So this is where his eyes pop out. You follow? He says, "Wow, what an amazing thing! If you're besimcha and you share that simcha with somebody else." And you make somebody else who is atzivu into simcha, then you're a Ben Elam Haba. For sure. So that's what the Rabbi bases on. The Rabbi says that if you get into simcha and you also help somebody else to be with simcha, then you're a Ben Elam Haba for sure. That's what the Rabbi says in the Sikha. It's an unusual thing for the Rabbi to talk to him. That's what he said. He says, beauty safek that you are a Ben Elam Haba. So from that we see what an amazing thing, this whole inyan of simcha, And the whole inner for Chodesh Adar is that we get that, as it were, a matana no matter. We don't have to work to be in this madrega from Ayin Mazel Yisrael, which is the greatest simcha. It's just there and prepared for you. And in a shnasa yibor, when there's two orders, then the 64 days of bori mazlei milamayla. Not that you had to work for that; it's given to you, and it's already there. What you have to do is take advantage of that. You have to do something about it. But it's already there for you. All you got to do is cash in, and that's only during the Apila, Nisan, and other months with all their milers. They don't have that. You follow? And that's what the Gemara said at the beginning. Kishem or is, going into order is the opposite. In other words, that I'm pulling also into a big aliyah through the union of Chodesh Adar. Yeah. It's a very, very amazing idea. So the Rebbe goes on to say, that's why it is that Rosh Chodesh Adar comes out Gimel V'Dalet. How do you call it? That's how it is this year by us also. Rosh Chodesh Adar is Yom Shlishi Yom Rabbi. Gimel V'Dalet. So the Gemara Masechta Shabbos says that that's a Rosh Hashanah, Goimel Dalim. How do you call it? That you give hashpah to poor people, Dalim. Mitzad the Mila of Gimel, the big Mila of Tiferes, the Pnimius of Gimel, that's able to give into Malchus even when it's lacking, even when things are not so good. So the Rebbe said that indicates also what we just saw before, the union of Mashpia, that you bring into other people also. That's Gimel Dalit, that's Goimel Dalit. So it comes out that you're not only supposed to be holding by Simcha yourself, you've also got to, So it's just like at this crazy moment in the world, thing, there's a of catching on. So the real catching on and the emissary that he got passing over one thing to another person is simple. That if you pass him over that, you are lifting him up and you're making him a kli to all the good. And then he becomes a kli to the ayin. You follow? The Rabbi said that will also lead to a further point that we see here, that every yid is a whole. If he is a whole, then due to him zahav. The Rabbi said that every yid is due to be a rich guy. You follow? Everybody should have a lot of spare cash and everything, because he is be'etzim zahov. If he got zahov, let it be given to a yid. It's like he is zahov. So the zahov belongs to him, and therefore he should be an oshia. What did you want to say?
The Rebbe says here, Livnos es beis hamikdash hashlishi b'poel mamash.
Yeah.
Now, we learned before about iron, barzel.
So that's very interesting. I agree with you. You look very intelligently. That is a very good point you make. And the Rebbe says that according to the Rambam, the Lashon of the Rambam is that Melech HaMashiach Ubana es Beis HaMikdash b'Kohen Moshe. Or according to another, he is a Yivneh es Beis HaMikdash b'Kohen. Mashma that Melech HaMashiach will build the Beis HaMikdash. And if you have the Gemara in two places, it's brought down that the Beis HaMikdash is going to come down from heaven. And the Rambam has shown you about the Gemara. Why does he nonetheless say that Mashiach will build the Beis HaMikdash? So the Rebbe says that one way we could explain that is to say that Mashiach will draw out all the foundations, and he will show and he will build what's called the Yisodot of the building, and then the Ikea building will come down. You follow? But why is it called Yivneh? Because the Yisod is like the Yisod of everything. And Mashiach will place the Yisod. And when you think about it, it's a very profound idea, because that's what Mashiach is going to do. He's going to put everything right. He's going to make the foundations for building a whole new world. Well, that's what the Rabbi said. Now, Mela, you notice very nicely. That's a very good point you made.
Because there's elections next week,
Oh.
and the Kahanists, they want to send in the bulldozers right now to level the mosque and start building the Beis HaMikdash. If we tried that, what would happen? Would it succeed or would it be a disaster?
I must admit that
Let's go!
I must admit that I'm a little bit not, sure how to answer that. I must say that the way things are holding now, it looks to me as if there's got to be, somebody who's a little bit sort of, how do you call it, a strong mover. I don't want to use the word chutzpah, but somebody who is ready to take unusual action. But that's for sure that we're approaching. It's coming up on the screen. And it's a very good point you made. You noticed very nicely.
Good.
Bonus, basically. And that's a very, and the Rabbi talks about it in the footnotes, and that the Rabbi talks about it in the Caesar. He wrote that somebody will, let's say, get over his chair and get something done.
Yeah, we will spread the simcha and pass us some wine, please, Mr. Wernicott. Thank you.
Here's Benjamin. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah.
Here's Benjamin.
So you see, he's supposed to be for bringing over there. It could be he decided to go straight there.
You mentioned catching. From China there is a virus.
Yes.
I wrote a letter here, maybe of interest to you.
Amen.
You should realize
Thank you, Rabbi Gafne.
that
Hatzlacha.
Excuse me, it's not appropriate to take wine out. Sorry,
you should realize he's a cookie. He helps what's going on.
What's happening?
Maybe he got be right back. I don't know, my boy. I noticed that you're very anxious to get to Chabad.
Yes, I like it, I enjoy it.
Right. Listen, now, we'll have to see what's happening, right now, in my family situation, I'm very sort of taken up. I've got two Einiklet, which have become Chassanim. So we're very sort of busy trying to help my children get everything organized. They got to make two Chassanas, and we're all sort of taken up. And just the other day, our big Mazgan that provides the eco-warming of our house blew. It's finished. So we're sort of, and so we'll see,
It's good for you, but Gafne is to go
Yeah.
to Chabad.
So we'll take it into account. But I certainly have not finished going to Chabad. I just, for all sorts of reasons, which proved positive ones, I made the Fabring of Tsfat here instead of going to Chabad, and it worked very nicely. Quite a few of the guys saw the Fabring that normally wouldn't have come. So, everything is, it's got its good point.
Time.
And also, let's, is this still working?
Huh? I think so.
I don't want to go up onto the air with all this. But I think this is a really amazing document.
Yeah.
There's a male. It just shows you what koyach every year that's got, he's the Zahav of the whole world. And he's really the deer of the Tachtoinim. He's really the Mishkan. And therefore the Ike Inyan is Zahav. That's what. Yeah, so what do you say, Yehuda?
He took the ice to
He's
make
going
his way to the
straight to
yeshiva because he just got off the bus.
He's going straight to the yeshiva.
Yeah, he needed to make a connection there, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
He wanted to know how many people were here, if it was worth it. I said, go to the yeshiva, you're late for that appointment already.
No, 9:45 is supposed to be at the yeshiva.
Oh, 9:45?
No, it's all right. Leave it that way.
That's what it said.
It's not really yet for him this evening.
We don't have so many people here.
Yeah, I told him,
what's
I
his
forgot
name?
about that.
So it's good, he can get there before and talk to people.
He might have been a buyer, but he left already. So, I think it's better to leave it that way.
Yeah, I was an hour on.
Yeah. Okay, whatever, it's good.
Anyway, he's invited to bringing the issue. So, it should be in a good show. It'll be the tzloch.
I have the strength, I'll go take a peek myself.
Maybe we can have him another time here.
Is it the same guy who did the Dvar Malchus?
Yeah.
Ah.
You were here for that, right?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah, he's got a print book that he's selling.
Yeah.
Which is Sichot, all the Sichot of the Rebbe translated into English about Eretz Yisrael, what the Rebbe said everywhere the Rebbe spoke about it. So, yeah, he's he's done very, very positive work. One has to give credit where credit's due. We have to give a credit for. It's really strange. I don't know what's with this guy. I don't know.
Well, we're on live, maybe I can take
He seems to be like a lone.
Take it off.
He seems to be like a lone figure.
One second.
Not Yosef.
Not going down, hold on. Not going down.
He sometimes comes into the